Well, yes.
Now, I said at the beginning of when you came on in the introduction, I said that you'd sparked a revolution, in a sense, in how horses were raced, what surface horses were raced on. Now, the enjoyment that some people derive from racing horses on the dirt, I being one of them, is not something that you have shared. And we diverge on that significantly.
We do, yes.
For you, I can see you're enjoying this already.
Yes.
For you, why is it that you want US racing to revolutionise as regards which surface they race on?
Well, it's not me, anyhow. So my sole reason for coming on was to tell you off.
I'm very happy to be told off. Very happy to be told off. But I've enjoyed this so far.
So viewers, Boy Wonder comes to America 2 years ago, a big conference in Saratoga, right? And he said, American lacks the confidence to lead the racing world because they feel other countries don't like the medication, the facilities and the dirt.
Well, this is all true.
That's all true. But then Boy Wonder puts both feet right in it. And he said, I love dirt racing. It stretches the equine athlete to the maximum, a reward for both class and courage. Okay.
Yep.
But all racing...
I'm still happy with this.
Yes. All racing taxes the mind and intestinal fortitude of a horse. But dirt racing stretches the body more than is necessary and very often beyond breaking point. Dirt racing can't survive without a shed load of medication and too many fatalities.
It can't survive.
No, it can't survive.
Or that culturally we have just moved to the point whereby, in order to satisfy people's need for action, trainers have cut corners and therefore medicated the horses, and also that the surfaces for so long were not well enough maintained, so the incidence of injury was significantly greater, and therefore trainers felt they had to medicate in order to counteract that. Well,
it's a matter of public record, but a famous trainer in America says his horse received 17 injections the week of the race.
Yeah,
That's right.
I'm not disputing that there is a... How did I start the speech?
And the fatalities are twice what they are on turf unsynthetic. But it's not... It's worse than that.
But how much more dirt racing is there than turf or synthetic in America?
Percentage.
All right, percentage-wise, okay.
Right, okay. So...
fatalities have gone down in the last 10 years in the United States, so with better management of the racetracks.
It's still double what it is on the... But it's far worse than that. Only 30 tracks subscribe to the injury database. There are another 70 that don't, and they don't for the single reason their fatalities are sky high. You've no idea how bad it is.
Well, on that point, we absolutely agree. But my point is that I don't think it is dirt racing per se. I think it's the way that the horses are being trained, particularly at the lower level, and a lack of regulation, a lack of rigorous regulation amongst a lot of the smaller racecourses in the United States, and a lack of harmonisation between the racing jurisdictions to get their house in order. So if there is not a clear policy of what you can give horses across all the states in the United States, then there is going to be a lack of confidence in being able to take the sport forward. As a spectacle, dirt racing is a more exciting spectacle than racing on the
Did you see the Kentucky Derby last year?
That's my view.
When the trainer said...
It's like heavyweight
told
boxing.
the jockey, he said, unless you're in the first two around the first turn, forget it. There was 20 runners. The kickback was horrific. You want to try and blow the dirt out of a horse's eye after a race.
But it was ever thus. It was ever
awful.
thus. You either like it as an aesthetic spectacle or you don't.
There are two things the public don't like. Fatalities and medication.
Agreed.
And dirt racing can't survive without...
But if the tracks are better maintained, if there's more harmonisation in the rules...
All right. Well, when Boy Wonder himself came to Saratoga, right, there'd just been 14 horses banned off in 15 races training. Now, you didn't get the memo, but everybody else knew, right? Now, Saratoga, has the best track superintendent in America. They have a huge budget, good weather, the best horses and trainers.
Hang on a minute. No, it can be very inconsistent weather. You can get a sloppy track one day, fast track the next day.
At this time, when there were 14 fatalities, 14 horses banned off in 15 days training, the weather was good. They have a good track super. But that's the trouble with dirt. It's like an IED. It can blow up in your face without you knowing it.
So, what's the solution? Are you suggesting all dirt racing disappears?
It's already... So, where are those statistics? Have you got the statistics for turf?
Which one would you like first?
The 5% or the 17%?
I'm sure we have. Let's have a look at
Put those graphics. There we have. Right.
So
in 1991, the turf races in America.
There were 5% of all races.
Right, and now they're 17. And last year, with a filter, they just filtered out all the claiming races. 48% of the best races in America are on the turf. The trainers are already voting for it.
But I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing that you have more turf races in the USA. It's a good thing because it increases the global sport.
Yes, that's great.
It increases interest in all the other countries. We like that. But all I'm saying is I believe there is still a place for top-class dirt racing in the USA.
Well, go and put up, Frank, the racing secretaries can't fill races on the dirt. That's the problem. The trainers are already... The revolution's on.
Well, then that will be a process of natural selection, won't it? It may well be that in 10, 20 years' time, all races in the US are run on turf. But as things stand, if you're asking me what I enjoy watching, for better or worse, I do enjoy watching top-class dirt races.
You can't love horses when they're dying. You can't love racing and say they're dying and they're full of drugs. The public don't like that.
Well, that's ridiculous. That's like saying you can't enjoy national hunt racing because horses die. You can't enjoy the sport of horse racing because horses die. Nobody wants horses to die, and it's absolutely in the grasp of all the authorities, and some do it better than the others, to make sure that horses are as well looked after as they can within the parameters of what they're being asked to do. We are asking animals to do something for our pleasure. That is the fundamental basis of our sport, and within that sometimes you will get serious injury and fatality. It's a question of whether we ask them a reasonable level of risk. You're saying, and I agree with you in part, that on the dirt we don't ask them a reasonable level of risk, because, and I would suggest that at the top level I'm satisfied with it, but further down the scale, particularly in America, it is not sufficiently well regulated and the tracks are not sufficiently well maintained to take that element of risk down. Still, if you look at the statistics on the website of the American Jockey Club, fatalities have fallen year on year over 10 years.
But those aren't real statistics. They're only 30% of the 30 out of 100
But those
horses.
are the 30 best tracks. That is where the sport is being
Yes, but what about the other 70?
That is clearly a massive problem. I'm agreeing with you.
Yes.
But I don't think the answer to it is to abolish it. I think the answer to it is to make it, is to try to make it better.
We've had it for 100 years. We've tried hard. You go around all the time. The track supers. Suddenly there's a rash of injuries. They fire the track super. They get the next guy in. He changes the cushion. It's all right for a bit, and then it blows up again in his face. And they try really hard.
This is the absolute foundation and lifeblood of your sport. The Kentucky Derby is your most famous horse race. It is one of the world's most famous horse races. It is the second most watched sporting event in the United States behind the Super Bowl. It is the absolute marrow of your sport. And what are you without the Derby and the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup Classic and all the great races run on dirt?
Well, we still have lots of good turf races. But we've got to look after the horses better.
I agree. On that, we agree completely.
The bit about when you came into Saratoga and did your bit was upsetting to me because you have a well-deserved reputation for being an excellent presenter and you're very intelligent. And most of what you say is worthy of attention. So I was just disappointed that somebody as smart as you was standing up for dirt racing.
Now you're trying to flatter me.
No! Right.
Yeah, I'll continue to stand up for it, but I think we are essentially speaking the same language as regards our attitude to equine welfare and the importance of looking after these horses, of not taking shortcuts by pumping them full of whatever you want to pump them full of. And what was the first? Only one of us wrote this speech, and it was Michael. What was my first line again about? You've got it written down.
The USA lack the confidence to lead the world in racing because they feel other countries don't like the medication, the facilities and the dirt.
And am I wrong? That's a
pretty
good start,
you're right. No, that's right, yes. But then you said, put both feet right in it. Oh, I love dirt racing.
But it's about having the confidence in the product.
You love medication, you love fatalities.
No, I don't love medication or fatalities, that's obvious.
Right.
But then, you know, you know that in order to train horses successfully that you've used medication.
Yes, but
yeah, I don't love medication.
Yeah, I don't use a lot.
Yeah, but you can train a horse. Say a horse like De Haas, for example. You nursed him back to full health to get him back for a brilliant training performance. Now you couldn't have done that without the assistance of medication along the way. Medication is not always a bad thing. It's the irresponsible and injudicious use of medication that gives the whole sport a bad name when there are plenty of people who are using medicines perfectly legitimately and perfectly legally and perfectly properly, like any athlete. Same with athletes. You've got 100-metre runners will be seen by doctors all the time and be getting medication that is perfectly legal. Cyclists the same. But it's the people who then try and fail to see where the line is between getting an edge and getting an unfair edge, and that then...
De Horst didn't win the Breeders' Cup for a medication.
I'm not saying he
won
did.
It because he had brilliant surfaces, he had hills to train on, he had a brilliant man looking after him who massaged the legs and did all sorts of other things.
But you needed the science along the way.
And a jockey, rider, exercise rider, who could get his work to within a fifth of a second.
Did he run on Lasix?
He ran on Lasix, yes.
And was he allowed to run on Butte? I presume he was, because it was 1998.
Yes, he ran on Butte,
So,
yes.
so you're telling me that your greatest training performance of all time came with a horse that was running on Butte and running on Lasix, and then you're saying to me that I have a cultural problem with the use of medication. I mean, it's absurd.
He didn't have 17 injections.
Well, does it matter whether you've had this many, that many, or the other many?
Well,
you ran your horse on Butte and Lasix and won, and it was your greatest training performance. I have no problem with that.
Well, you have to run on Lasix because everybody else is running on Lasix. I wish we didn't run on Lasix.
Well, you can make a stand and not run on it.
No, because it
moves
you up 4 lengths.
But yeah, but
I can't throw the race away.
But if you were that principled, then if you really want to change the way, you're principled enough to have given up a brilliant training career to try and revolutionise the way horses are trained on different surfaces around the world. You are principled enough to do that, and you are brilliant enough to do that, but you're not principled enough to say, right, well, I won't run my horse on Lasix then.
Well, Lasix moves a horse up typically 4 lengths. Now, I wouldn't be here today if the horse had finished second, and you wouldn't be having me in because I didn't win the Breeders' Cup, because I didn't give my horse Lasix. It moves horses up. Simple as that. And the beauty had was 48 hours out. There was a tiny, very little in the system in 48 hours. It's gone in 24. So he did run on some medication, but not 17.
Are we digressing somewhat from the initial point?
Yes.
So where's the end game? You feel then that...
Well, it's already coming to an end. Trainers are voting against dirt, and they're running to... You see, where's Martin Panzer's quote, the racing secretary?
Is Martin Panzer, racing secretary of the New York Racing Association?
Yes, we'll put him up in a minute.
I've got it here somewhere as well. If we write a New York maiden on the dirt, we may only get 2 entries, and the same race on the turf, there could be 18.
That revolution's already taken place.
So do you think then we could reach a situation whereby turf racing becomes a dominant force in the United States, and dirt racing becomes a more... maybe that might be a better way round. Maybe it might be a better way round. Maybe those great dirt races may still exist. Well,
the dirt races, the top races will still have the Triple Crown.
And some of those down the lower end, where there are more welfare problems, may self-selectively disappear.
Yes, maybe.
But, of course, the crucial thing, Michael, is we have to get people to continue to bet on the sport.
Well, the bettors love turf racing.
Well, if the bettors love turf racing, then that again will self-select.
That's the next problem, because the bettors love that. So the accountant for the racetrack tells the racing secretary, oh, the bettors love, we want more turf racing. Now, that's the problem we're having.
And the handle was up last year in the United States. So
yes, but they're having more turf races, but they're beating up the turf tracks now. Typically, a turf track would have 120 races a year on it, and that's what they can handle.
And then again, you've walked into the same welfare problem. Too much racing. Does it matter what the surface is? If you abuse the surface and keep bashing it and bashing it and bashing it and bashing it, then you run into the welfare problem, whether it's dirt racing, turf racing, or indeed, dare I say it, synthetic racing. If you abuse a synthetic surface, you make an unsafe surface for the horse.
Yes, well, they are abusing some of the turf tracks. By the end of the meet, they're getting beat up.
Beat up, a bit like I'm feeling right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Feel my blood pressure's risen sufficiently. Thank you very much. You're going to stay with us, aren't you, towards the end of the show if you don't disappear. But for the moment, Michael Dickinson, thank you very much. Do stay with us. We will be rejoined in a few moments' time by Susanna Gill and Ian Bartlett.